So those are some shots of your university, and I hope they bring back some happy memories of your time here. Now, the main reason for making this video is to record your graduation. Today, you join the graduates of the university, and at the moment, those are about 80,000 in all. Moreover, they come from all countries, and they're now spread in all corners of the world. So this is a university, not just a university of the United Kingdom, but a university that is recognized worldwide. It is a large university and an important one, and in graduating from it, you've done well. We, of course, like all other universities in the United Kingdom, are at the moment under some pressure. Society is wishing its universities to change, and the University of Manchester is no exception. So continuously, we have to move forward to adapt to what is required and to abandon what is no longer required. We believe we're doing that. But there are one or two things that remain constant and can't be changed. We, when we educate our students from this university, are very keen that they should be able to do various important things. They should be able to marshal fact, develop argument, and above all, I think, have a regard for the truth. And we hope we've done that as far as you're concerned. But enough of all that, now on to the video of the graduation itself.
Mr. Chancellor, today we are fulfilling a prediction or honouring an unwritten promise to our first graduand. Earlier in her career with this university, before she became secretary to the registrar, she worked for another officer with a well-established reputation for being a hard taskmaster, quite the opposite from her subsequent boss, I've been instructed to say. Her many colleagues declared that if she lasted in that particular posting longer than any of her predecessors, she would deserve an honorary degree. Well, she did, and here it is, and nonetheless deserved for its slightly tardy arrival. However, noble though that achievement was, and great the virtue displayed, that criterion in itself is not enough to justify this award, and she has many other claims to this university's recognition. Miss Allen's schooling here in Manchester was interrupted, like that of so many others of the time, by evacuation during World War II to the relatively safer environment of Nelson. There, the practice was fostered of encouraging all to display their talents at evening gatherings, and our graduand gained a fine reputation for her artistic rendering of that truly great masterpiece of English literature, Albert and the Lion. And it remains in her repertoire to this very day. At an early age, she became deeply involved with the guide movement, being in turn a guide captain, a ranger, and a brown owl. And her input to these activities over a number of years was considerable and left an excellent and a lasting impression for good on many cohorts of girls. It came to an end solely on account of her moving abroad. Having worked in a secretarial capacity with several commercial firms in the city, for example, J&P Coates, she decided in 1963 to broaden her experience and for the next 3 years, she worked in the United Nations office in Geneva. Following this, with a 2-year sojourn in the Agricultural Commission in Uganda. And after such field training, there could be no one better prepared to embark on a 20-year period of frontline service in this university. Now, the job of secretary to the registrar obviously requires a high order of basic secretarial skills. But in the unwritten job description are the additional requirements of clairvoyancy, diplomacy, discretion, unflappability in the line of fire, mind reading, an ability to win in the horses, and a degree of familiarity with the basic rules of street fighting. Happily, these ingredients are in our graduate's CV. With about 12,000 students and 6,000 employees in this university, it's no great surprise that whenever anything is perceived to go wrong, it must be the registrar's fault. And he would wish to be informed of both the defect and the remedy at the earliest possible opportunity. So very soon, our graduate mastered the skill of assessing these complaints, at least into grades of severity, something along the lines of the Richter scale. And her actions as gatekeeper to the registrar were always taken with a fine sense of responsibility and fairness. Now, a similar quality of decision-making has applied to the registrar's mail. Not always is it clear for whom the letter or package is really intended, and Miss Allen has developed an uncanny knack of working out for herself the correct addressee and directing it accordingly. On one occasion, a box-shaped parcel wrapped in plain brown paper, firmly tied with strong string, was delivered to her office, and this time very clearly addressed to the registrar in childish, large block capitals. And it was ticking. Showing considerable personal courage, she took it forthwith to a more distant, empty office. An unnecessary call to the local friendly bomb disposal squad was only just avoided by another university official asking her if the night security clock, which had been sent off for repair, had been returned yet. She not unreasonably suggested that she might be informed on any future similar occasion. Now, Miss Allen has not only set a high personal standard in her own work, but also on many occasions has helped with career advice and other matters for secretaries and other staff well beyond the main university building. Indeed, it is a frequent occurrence that past chairmen and officers, both lay and establishment, inquire about her in the most kindly terms. She has clearly made a beneficent impact on our institution. And as if her duties were not demanding enough, in the mid-70s, she started an Open University degree course, and not content with the BA she obtained in 1982, she proceeded to convert it to an honors degree. She also likes puzzles and competitions. And each day, early completion of her crossword is quite usual, and winnings from competitions have been most generously shared. Our graduand is rarely beaten by a challenge, large or small. A little time back, however, a problem arose which did confound her, and help had to be sought. A letter arrived for the registrar asking for tickets for the new model army. Miss Allen tried the history department, and drawing a blank, the military training section. Neither they, or the library, the museum, Department of History of Art, or the business school, or anyone she could think of, could throw any light on the quest. Then the youngest of the members of her staff informed her that it was a pop group who were doing a gig at the Students' Union, and the problem was solved. She may have interpreted this as perhaps another signal that the time for retirement was indeed approaching, and she left office a few months ago. Retirement is, of course, somewhat of a euphemism for a full program of caring, of voluntary work, of gardening, of competitions, of walking, of traveling, mainly in Cornwall and France, and keeping in touch with friends who it is superfluous to add are numerous. All too often, lip service alone is paid, and that belatedly, to the pivotal work performed by secretarial staff. But we would like on this occasion to give a more lasting mark of our appreciation of the enormous amount of high-quality service, the splendid example, and fine leadership she has given in the secretarial and administrative work of this university. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the university, I present to you for the degree of Master of Arts honoris causa, Elsie Allen.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts honoris causa.
Mr. Chancellor, our next graduate is probably the most renowned program seller in the Northwest. Every evening during the annual Buxton Festival, he is to be found out front, hailing all comers like close friends with great warmth and great enthusiasm. And it would demand a strong nerve and a degree of sales resistance rarely encountered to decline the purchase of the program. But Mr. Hunter's involvement with the Buxton Festival is relatively recent, over the past 10 years, his main career occupation being that of stockbroking. After school at Rugby, where he acquired a passion for and a proficiency in the relevant game, and of national service with the Royal Corps of Signals in the most exotic surroundings of Catterick Camp, he followed the footsteps of both his father and grandfather by becoming a partner in the long-established and respected finance firm Henry Cook & Son, subsequently Henry Cook Lumsden plc. In that same year, that's 1953, he became a member of the Stock Exchange. And the impact he made was reflected in him rapidly becoming chairman of the company, and also by him being made deputy chairman of the Northern Stock Exchange and council member of the National Stock Exchange. Numerous other financial responsibilities with the commercial houses followed over the years, and among them, directorship of the Halifax Building Society, from which he has only very recently retired after 22 years of unbroken service. It would appear, therefore, Mr. Chancellor, that our graduate must be extremely knowledgeable about everything to do with money. But is he? I return to the matter of program selling. On one fairly recent occasion, when Mr. Hunter and his fellow program sellers were counting up the evening's takings, in the very proper environment of the bar, he moved to comment that one theatre goer had in fact tendered a £30 note. On his being told, apparently to his surprise, that there was no note of such denomination, he was fortunately able to recall the customer concerned, and realizing that it had indeed been a £50 note, hastily fined him in the auditorium and rather apologetically press an additional £20 worth of change upon him. I am, however, in danger of trivializing David Hunter's contributions to the Buxton Festival. There is no hint of exaggeration in the claim that he, more than any other individual, has transformed the event from an ailing, limping exercise of doubtful viability into one of the foremost and most important and most financially sound artistic endeavors in the national scene. Having no previous contact with the performing arts, but with an inherited love of the Buxton area, a heart full of enthusiasm, and his great finance and business skills, he unhesitatingly took up the challenge presented to him in 1980 to take on, in addition to his many other commitments, chairmanship of the Buxton Arts Festival Limited. And there has been scarcely a day in these last 10 years in which he has not devoted some time and energy to its affairs. He has quite unashamedly taken advantage of his many personal contacts in the cause of raising money and other resources for the festival, but without losing the friendship of those so used. At the occasional social gathering, however, when other staff associated with the festival have disclosed what they do, a guest within earshot has been known to exclaim, "You're not going to tap me for money like that David Hunter." Under his guidance, the event has grown from 10 days to now almost a month in duration, with artistic productions of the highest quality, and in which the world's most famous performers have been proud to take part. In spite of this continuous immersion in the riches of the performing arts, our graduate has maintained, and indeed almost boasted, that he is a true Philistine. He has avowed that not only does he not appreciate the finer points of operas and other offerings, but that even some of the coarser points from time to time elude him. He has defended his preference for some of the big band renderings of the 1930s and 40s. Perhaps he protesteth a little too much, for there is good evidence which contradicts Philistinism. First, for his annual vacation, he takes a fine suite in a well-known hotel in Buxton for the duration of the festival, wherein he hosts one continuous open house party for artists, for friends, and for staff and the well-known gatecrashers. And there is no one more able to engage the visiting performers in informed discussion of their own particular interests and interpretations than our graduate. Also, his own proposals for inclusion in future programs reveal a depth of appreciation and a discrimination of taste which he may well modestly deny outside this hall. There is no task too great or too small for David Hunter to undertake on behalf of the festival. He will raise dauntingly large sums of money. He will clear up the glasses in the bar. He will host the famous and the unknown newcomer alike with his warm and legendary hospitality. In spite of his very full schedule, he remains remarkably calm and relaxed. And no doubt, one of the reasons for this is his choosing to get about by taxi rather than drive himself. However, he'll travel anywhere, if necessary, to further the cause, flying off on one occasion at a moment's notice in order to have an important decision-making meeting with a very illustrious artistic director in Reykjavik, a center not too frequently called upon by visiting impresarios. Away from worlds of finance and the performing arts, our graduate continues to keep abreast of the state of play in both rugby and tennis. And although he has inherited his father's appreciation of excellence and artistry in gardening, he tends now a little more towards the role of admiring spectator rather than active spade-wielding participant. This preference, however, does ensure that he has time to share with the following two generations of hunters, to whom he has an even greater allegiance than to the Buxton Festival. Mr. Chancellor, it is our custom to acknowledge the great contributions which individuals make to a particular sphere of worthy human endeavor. Not too often do we have the chance to signal our recognition of someone who has made outstanding success in two worlds, as in today's example, that of finance and that of the arts. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the University, I present to you for the degree of Master of Arts honoris causa, David Ian Hunter.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts honoris causa.
Mr. Chancellor, Lady Kenyon already has several close connections with this university. She previously graduated here in the more conventional way of writing examination papers, in her case to considerable effect in the combined subjects of French with German. More recently, she has given yeoman service in the Whitworth Gallery Committee. She has been a regular supporter of our institution's charitable and social events, achieving combined literary and culinary fame for a rather exotic menu contributed to a fundraising university ladies' cookbook. So, her basic Manchester University credentials are sound. We must, however, look to her catalogue of many other worthy endeavors. Like our last graduate, she has a happy association with Buxton, having gone to school at the Cavendish High School. And after graduation here, she continued in the education scene by trying to pass on her linguistic skills to the youth of Hindley Green in Wigan. That she failed to prolong this activity beyond a mere year or two is the fault of this university, for it was here that she met her husband, and the family, which soon arrived, called a halt to her teaching duties. But once she was again free to become more involved with outside interests, our graduate embarked on a career of public service, which is frankly hard to beat. At first, she became secretary to the local Girl Guides. Next, she was elected to the magistrates' bench in Hyde, later Thameside, and although others in both her own and her husband's family were also to serve in similar capacities, she entertains a certain childish pleasure in recording that she made it first, And in this important service, Lady Kenyon's main efforts have been devoted to the juvenile bench, of which she served as chairman for some years. It is in the field of healthcare, however, that our graduand has made her greatest impact. From her very first involvement as secretary to the Parsonage Street Orthopedic Centre, more years ago than is polite to recall, right up to a few months ago, she has been right at the centre of health service management in Tameside. She has provided a strong sense of continuity through a spell during which the service has seen fit to change the names of everything at irregular but certainly frequent intervals. At first, she served on the Ashton, Hyde and Glossop Hospital Management Committee, then a spell on the Regional Hospital Board, followed by Tameside Area Authority, and laterally, and until it changes its name again, Tameside and Glossop District Health Authority. And she only recently retired from chairmanship of this body, having outlasted no less than 4 separate secretaries of state. And while she occupied that office, it is a matter of record that the district, which inherited some of the worst buildings in the service, has moved to the position of having arguably the best capital stock in the region. What are the main ingredients of this success story? First, our graduand was rigorous in guiding her appointments committees to favouring young, well-qualified officers with clear potential, so that a good core staff was established, and they were motivated to stay in office for a long time. Secondly, she always did her homework very thoroughly, so that she came to each meeting fully briefed and able to cover all the ground adequately, but in a reasonably short space of time. And one endearing trait has been her insistence on everyone having the pages of every document, regardless of how long, clearly numbered before the start of each meeting, with the old-fashioned idea in mind that everyone should know exactly what was being talked about at the time. It is surely doubtful that such a radical idea will prevail. Lady Kenyon sets a high standard in style and presentation and expects a similar response from her colleagues. That she gets it is a mark of her fine leadership. An even greater manifestation of this quality is her encyclopedic memory for all the members of families of her colleagues, their successes, their health or career problems, their talents, their examinations encounters, their difficulties, and kind inquiries are often accompanied or followed by practical recognition or assistance. For a while, our graduand's personal transport was a modest make of car, but of the most immodest bright yellow colour. With such a distinctive, if not unique vehicle, a surprise, unannounced arrival at any office or meeting was firmly precluded. It is also reported that she drove it with what is euphemistically called enthusiasm, as befits a vehicle of this description. She is doubtless aware that it soon became known as the Yellow Peril. I have already referred to Lady Kenyon being well informed, and this applies not only in the matter of her public service dealings, but in a much wider context. For she is a truly voracious reader of a very wide spectrum of books and is rarely found without one or two regularly to hand. A goodly proportion of this reading is done during the overseas travel which she enjoys to undertake with her husband, who is not entirely unknown to this university and who does get about a bit. Her musical tastes are unashamedly classical, and she is as frequent a theatre goer as time will allow. Another place of regular cultural pilgrimage is the Old Trafford cricket ground. So, if any lingering doubt of the merits of our candidate's case should, albeit surprisingly, have remained as my account unfolded, surely it must have been completely swept aside by this final disclosure. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the University, I present to you for the degree of Master of Arts in Economic and Social Studies honoris causa, Christine Dury Kenyon.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts in Economic and Social Studies honoris causa.
Mr. Chancellor, our next graduate was for some years manager of the oldest branch of the National Westminster Bank in the Manchester area, and a bank which boasted over 1,000 years of banking service to educational institutions. Among its many customers, as well as this university, were Chetham's, Manchester Grammar School, and the City of Manchester. He also lays claim to being no mean linguist, with proficiency in both Hebrew and Arabic. However, when one learns that these were acquired during national service in the Palestine Police, it seems likely that the vocabulary range tends more towards the prosaic and forthright rather than the cultured, classical end of the spectrum. Sufficient to say he was able to make himself clearly understood in the circumstances which arose. National service was the single interlude between Mr. Smith's schooling at Stockport and his professional life fully devoted over a span of 42 years to banking. Starting at the District Bank Limited, the head office in Spring Gardens in 1948, he moved around several other branches, spent a further time in the security department, and was then made manager at Astley House, Manchester in 1960. Similar posts followed in West Bromwich, in Sale, and finally the Lloyd Entwistle branch in King Street, where he arrived in 1972. His skills were recognized quite early on in his career, for in 1967 he was selected to represent his bank at the International Bankers Summer School in Canada. And he has remained prominent in banking circles throughout the years, being awarded a fellowship of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, and for many years serving on the committee of the Manchester and District Bankers Institute. What then is the style of this doyen of the financial world? In spite of the many exhortations to regard banks as friendly or listening or talking or caring institutions, many find that their communications are limited to an array of machines which write to, talk to, draw pictures to, or bring down a portcullis on them. But Mr. Smith, I am happy to relate, is the old-fashioned type of bank manager who prefers to meet with, get to know, and understand his clients on a personal basis. And this trait has endeared him to so many. Indeed, the promptness with which he would emerge from his office at the Lloyd Entwistle branch to greet most effusively a customer who had just arrived and had barely time to announce his name to the counter assistant gave that customer a feeling of inflated importance that the manager's thoughts were avidly concentrated on him. It was only after repeated visits to his office that the spy hole in his door was noticed. He is also a master at the conduct of the business lunch. Throughout the meal, an air of most pleasant informality persists, and all the generally interesting topics of the day are discussed with knowledge, with wit, and with humour. Any reference to the business and sums of money involved arise almost apologetically as asides, but are not dwelt on to any great length. The fully detailed and precisely accurate agreement then follows in writing, quite discreetly, a few days later. The entire background to the clearly defined proposal had, of course, been gone into most thoroughly before the lunch, for our graduate has always known the value of good preparation. The immediate impression on entering the inner sanctum was that he might strongly favour one of the major football teams, for it was resplendent in blue and white. But Mr. Smith's sporting interests have been much more in the direction of golf and cricket. He is an active member of Bramall Park Golf Club and a member of not one but two cricket clubs, namely Lancashire County and Moberly. And since he retired last year, he has been able to devote fuller attention to these most noble pursuits. He also some time ago developed a habit of disappearing off to Portugal on vacation in February, no doubt for laudable reasons, both of a climatic and financial basis. It would be expected that someone of our graduates' expertise and warm humanity would be involved with various aspects of public service, and this is so. For among his contributions are on the management committee of BBC Radio and the Northern Counties Housing Association. Now, on the occasion of his christening, our graduates' parents were more than usually liberal with Christian names, the full list of which is about to be disclosed. The relatively large collection of initials before his surname very soon inspired a somewhat obvious nickname. On one occasion, a visitor approached the counter asking to speak to Mr. Smith. The young assistant automatically turned to her superior and said, "Is Alphabet in his office?" The superior, recognizing the caller, replied, "Kindly show the area manager into Mr. Smith's office." To this day, the said junior is not sure whether Mr. Smith is or is not aware of his nickname. During his long tenure at the bank, there was substantial increase in business, which no doubt pleased the bank. But more than that, he became certainly the best-known manager of any bank in Manchester. And this high accolade comes from the most critical of all assessors, namely his colleagues and his contemporaries. We have been most fortunate to have had the advice and the services of a man of such caliber in the role of banker to this university. Mr. Chancellor, I have already referred, and I hope without embarrassment, to the number of initials preceding our graduate's surname. And now, by way of our thanks and recognition, we would like to even out the balance just a little by adding two more to follow the surname. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the University, I present to you for the degree of Master of Arts in Economic and Social Studies honoris causa, Neil Charles William Henry George Smith.
By virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts in Economic and Social Studies, honoris causa.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of the University, I present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Jonathan George Renard Bradley. Margaret Jean Burns.
Congratulations.
Talib Hamid.
Congratulations.
Susan Jane Rastetter.
Congratulations.
Patricia Richardson.
Congratulations.
Martin Peter Robb.
Congratulations.
Piers Lawrence David Wilson.
Congratulations.
And for the degree of Master of Arts in the Faculty of Arts, Dorothy Crowder.
Congratulations.
Claire Louise Deacon.
Congratulations.
Margaret Moira Pritchard.
Congratulations.
And for the degree of Master of Philosophy in the Faculty of Arts, Jane Elizabeth Plastow.
Congratulations.
Jean Fricker.
Congratulations.
Ian Michael Scammell.
Congratulations.
Barbara Gillian Smith.
Congratulations.
And Keith Malcolm Trevass.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of the University, I present to you for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in Ancient History and Archaeology, Crispin Peter Carr Branfort. Gillian Ruth Moore.
Congratulations.
Sophia Elizabeth Powell.
Congratulations.
James Peter Davison.
Congratulations.
Rachel Frances Ann Everidge.
Congratulations.
Andrew John Hill.
Congratulations.
And David Alain Kilkenny.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of the University, I present to you for the degree of Combined Studies with Honours, Andrew Anthony Barrett.
Congratulations.
Michelle Louise Davis.
Congratulations.
Stephen Marsden.
Congratulations.
Tereska Maria Barry.
Congratulations.
Michelle Sophia Beckwith. Harriet Chloe Berger. Angela E. Chan. Joanna Cooksey. Elizabeth Ann Chiniewska. Alison Jane Day. Janet Elizabeth English. Suzanne Michelle Epstein. George William Ayres. Catherine Joan Fairclough. Philippa Margaret Glucklich. Sarah Michelle Hardy. David Zev Harris. Matthew William Harrison. Helen Mary Johnson. David Malcolm Lewis. Philip Frank Maguire. Juliet Yvonne Maxim. Maureen Agnes McCoy. Dara Kate McGrath. Wendy Jane Otley. Amanda Jane Rogers. Helen Stevenson.
Congratulations.
Victoria Charlotte Sophia Tate.
Congratulations.
Sarah Ann Thomas.
Congratulations.
Emma Jane Thwaites.
Congratulations.
Joanne Townsend.
Congratulations.
Amanda Jane Trevor Roberts.
Congratulations.
Benjamin Walker.
Congratulations.
Douglas Wong In Kwong.
Congratulations.
Samantha Wong. Michelle Vashti Adamson.
Congratulations.
Amanda Louise Bickerton.
Congratulations.
Deborah Vanessa Blackman.
Congratulations.
Kate Brackner. Lucy Catherine Davin.
Congratulations.
Angelica Dom Paul.
Congratulations.
Peter Colin Duke.
Congratulations.
Ross Gregory Foster.
Congratulations.
Andrew Gallimore.
Congratulations.
Tanya Elizabeth Kendall.
Congratulations.
Fiona Catherine Levins.
Congratulations.
Graham Allen Page.
Congratulations.
David Gwynn Ricketts.
Congratulations.
Amanda Elizabeth Roper.
Congratulations.
Helen Russell.
Congratulations.
Christine Mason Townend.
Congratulations.
Rachel Louise Woollett.
Congratulations.
Christopher John Wright. And for the degree of combined studies, Guy Charles Dudley Bird.
Congratulations.
Beverly Victoria Germaine Walton.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of the University, I present you for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with Honours in History, Simon Daniel Cope Thompson.
Congratulations.
Jane Catherine Bannister,
Congratulations.
Matthew John Blake,
Congratulations.
Sarah Jane Bogle,
Congratulations.
Jonathan Mark William Bourne,
Congratulations.
Elizabeth Louisa Boxall,
Congratulations.
Catherine Davy,
Congratulations.
Victoria Ann Marina Dixon,
Congratulations.
Sarah Margaret Dunnicky,
Congratulations.
Wendy Joanne Grimshaw,
Congratulations.
Matthew William Roger Hannaford,
Congratulations.
Dominic Harkins,
Congratulations.
Alexa Truas Eyre Harris,
Congratulations.
Janine Sophia Hartman,
Congratulations.
Robert William Hetherington,
Congratulations.
Sarah Catherine Jones, Lindsay Jane Judge. Duncan Francis Flauach.
Congratulations.
Bronwyn Lloyd Evans.
Congratulations.
Damien Anthony McDermott.
Congratulations.
Martin James Moulton.
Congratulations.
Mary Jane Neal.
Congratulations.
David Kenneth Oldman.
Congratulations.
Jonathan Carl Pratt.
Congratulations.
Emma Jane Spaulding.
Congratulations.
Anthony Thomas Kevin Sweeney.
Congratulations.
Louise K. Thomas.
Congratulations.
Cheryl Dorothy Fraser Ashman.
Congratulations.
Jacqueline Ann Bendel.
Congratulations.
Ruth Elizabeth Bengry.
Congratulations.
Anne Mary Breslin.
Congratulations.
Paul Gladden Cuss.
Congratulations.
Andrew William Denholm.
Congratulations.
Jessica Lynn Honickman.
Congratulations.
Sarah Ann Jackson.
Congratulations.
Lucinda Jane Kennell.
Congratulations.
Sally Catherine Ledger.
Congratulations.
Helen Matthews.
Congratulations.
Seamus Patrick McNamara.
Congratulations.
Nicholas James Monaghan.
Congratulations.
Thomas Francis O'Gorman.
Congratulations.
Emily Joan Pryor.
Congratulations.
Philip James Frederick Pritchard.
Congratulations.
Christopher David Shilton.
Congratulations.
Deborah Ruth Topping.
Congratulations.
Rachel Sarah Weiss.
Congratulations.
Paula Lynn Wilson.
Congratulations.
Robin James White.
Congratulations.
And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in History and French, Janet Laura Angharad Coles.
Congratulations.
Catherine Ann Evans.
Congratulations.
And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in History and German, Anita Linda Benton.
Congratulations.
Leslie Hughes, Shaban Burke. And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in History and Italian, Emma Wingfield Strawn. And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in History and Sociology, Michelle Ann Crouch. Catherine Lucy Finn. Adrian Skirmer. David Raymond Hirschfield. Catherine Louise Russell. Victoria Caker. And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in History and Sociology, Mary Jane Ann O'Callaghan. And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in Medieval Studies, Peter Douglas Clark. Paul John Smith. Peter Michael Tetlow. And for the degree of Bachelor of Arts with honours in Modern History with Economics, David William Clayton. Robert James Shepherd. Martin Barrett. Lorna Gillian Berry. Rachel Brown. Timothy John Farron. Sasha Louise Kelly. Michael Patrick Nevin. Stephen Howard Platt. Lawrence Joel Sugarman. Mitchell Anthony Wolfe. Charles Richard Bloor. Rachel Eve Fife Epps. Diane Noble. Stephen Andrew Southart. John Peter Watson. Andrew Tobias Whiteley. Charles Woollian.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of the University, I present to you for the degree of Politics and Modern History with honours, Laura Ann Brace. Nicholas Robin Pearce. Nicola Helen Richards. Michael Guy Abrahams. Paul John Albertella. Jane Bulmer. Stephen Thomas Carson. Paul Andrew Cheel. Guy Anthony Chester. Michael Roy Cook. Martin John Cooper. Richard Glazebrook Alexander Frank. Ben Joseph Gallup. Margaret Fiona Gregory. Samuel James Johnston. Brendan Jones. Jeremy Stephen Joseph. Fiona Sarah Mackay. Nicola Jane Mackay. Michelle Louise Molson. Tony Jason Moss. Sarita Rao. Benjamin Gregory Rayner. Peter Rees Farrell. James Fergus Reeve. Catherine Ann Roberts. Siobhan Sinnerton. Stephen John Taylor. Richard Hugh Thomas. Sarah Joanna Young. Daniel Mark Clayton. Linda Elaine Corby. Andrew Thomas Dobby. Rachel Ford. Jason Richard Pigeon. Andrea Karen Ridsdale. Emma Thomas. Andrea Julie Lambert. And for the degree of Politics and Modern History, Peter Lawrence Ward.
Salva sit Universitas Nostrum Mancuniensis, hoc precantis consugamus.
So now you're leaving the university and going out to start a career in the world. We here in the university wish you the very best of luck. We're sure you'll do very well. When you graduate, as you've just done, you join a body of university graduates called Convocation. This body serves two purposes. First of all, it allows us to keep in touch with you, and we do this by the publication from time to time of a magazine, which we call Manchester Graduate. It'll tell you what's happening in the university, what's new, what's going on, how we're changing, how we're keeping up with the times. But we also want you, through Convocation, or indeed by contact with your old professors and tutors, to let us know what you're doing, how you're getting on in the world, what your experiences have been. This is very interesting to us. Please don't neglect to do it. So now, the world awaits you. Good luck.